And today one of the projects that we're working on is dissecting buds. Basically we're chopping the buds with a razor blade to check the vine's hardiness from our past winter. So this is a job that we do annually, and right now we're sitting at the 1st of March, and we would pretty much figure that most of the cold is behind us at this point, and going forward we shouldn't see too much more bud damage accumulating in our vines. What I want you to know about bud chopping is that depending on your pruning style, you want to be collecting representative examples of what you would normally be leaving in your vineyard. So if you're cane pruning, you're taking longer canes and checking those under the microscope or under some magnification. And if you're spur pruning, you can check these shorter stubs of the spurs to show what would represent what you would normally be leaving in the field. So also another note about which canes and material you should be using: make sure you're not choosing stuff that's too thin, because normally we wouldn't be using this type of stuff to make our fruit. And likewise, on the thicker end of a cane, a bull cane in this example, we don't want to be using these guys because they're not as hardy and they're not as fruitful. So always look for that Goldilocks material that's not too big and not too little, but just right. So let's just check it out, what these guys look like underneath the scope. We'll be cutting open these buds, and if you can see on the screen there, to make it fit, there we go, it's coming right in there. You can see that bud there is at the node, and this bud is actually a compound bud. So let's just start here. When we're doing this bud chopping, we're starting shallow at the top of the bud, at the tip of the bud basically, and we want to work our way down deeper through the bud, but we don't want to go too deep to begin with, because if we cut down here to begin with, that's going to give us a false positive. It'll look green, but we'll have cut off the bud. So we want to be sure that we're going right through the middle of that bud. And as we go a little bit sliced deeper there, here we can start to see there's some nice green leaf primordia material starting to show up. And as we go a little bit deeper, I think I'm seeing more and more green, which is good. And there you go. That's a nice, we're basically in the middle of the bud at that point. And that's the primary bud right here. You can see off to the bottom of that primary bud there's a secondary bud, and let's see if we can't just get the angle on that and cut him open a little better too. There we go. See how nice and green both of the secondary right here and the primary bud is. They're looking beautifully alive at this point, so that's good news for this bud. Once we've seen that, we can go ahead and record in our notebook that we're keeping track of, and primary is alive, secondary is alive. And we would continue to do this for as many buds as you want to do. Of course, the more the better, but you probably want to do at least 50 buds for a representative example of a certain variety in a certain block of your vineyard, just to get an idea of how well they're surviving there. Let's take a look now at a variety that we know is going to be probably less hardy in Minnesota, and what you would typically see then if that bud was not alive. So this is something that you might encounter in your vineyard on a colder winter year, or with varieties that are not quite as hardy for your site. So I'm going to expect that this is a brown bud, but I don't know for sure yet until I cut in here. So again, starting fairly shallow. And you see a lot of woolly material at this point. We need to get a little bit deeper in that bud to determine what's going on. But there we go. It's getting still pretty woolly and hard to see, but I'm not seeing any green, so it's not looking good for this guy. And there you go. Look at that. We're right in the center of that bud. You got that really brown center. There's no green material whatsoever. This guy is dead at that point. And even the secondary, which is a little bit below here on the side, we can try to cut into there. And again, no green material. So both of these, the primary and the secondary, are dead at this point. So that's not good. What you would do if you're in this scenario where you have a lot of your buds dead, let's say 50% of your buds were dead, you would be wanting to leave twice as many buds on your vines as normal. So if you have a vine that you would typically want say 40 buds in a normal season, and you got 50% bud loss, well, to make up for that 50%, you have to leave twice as many buds, which would be 80 buds at that point. So that's the whole purpose of this bud chopping, is to determine what those varieties are doing and what they look like in the field, and then you can go from there with your pruning and adjust your pruning as necessary. One other thing I want to add is, if you don't have this magnification, which I know a lot of you probably don't have on hand, you can easily take your smartphone and get a picture and get that magnification from your phone to determine these vines. I mean, typically you can see with the naked eye what that's looking like, but if you want a little bit clearer image, let's just pop the phone open here and get the camera pulled up, and now we get that's something that you could easily do on your own in the field, and it'll help you determine how to go forward with your pruning. So with that, I wish you good luck, and thank you. Take care.